In this tutorial, I will show you how you can make HTTP GET request and HTTP POST request in C#.NET. Nowadays, different online APIs are available which you can utilize from any programming language. But in order to utilize these APIs, you must know how you can utilize a certain programming language to make an HTTP GET request or HTTP POST request. So since I am using C#.NET, I will show you how you can make such requests using this programming language. So first of all, I will get started with making an HTTP client. An HTTP client is initiated using an HTTP client class, and it is in system.net.http namespace. As you can see that the namespace has been imported automatically. I will create client here. Now this object has created a client for me, and this client will be responsible for initiating certain requests to the server. But since this client is disposable and the object can be disposed once this object is of no use to the memory, so what I'm going to do here is I will be using a block of using, and I will put this HTTP client inside it. So once this client object is of no use, it will be disposed automatically. After that, since I have created a client, now I am going to get a response from a server. So if I check out the methods which I have here, I can get a asynchronous response from the server, or I can post asynchronously to the server. So in first case, I'm interested in getting the asynchronous requests, so I will hit this. Since it requires an HTTP response message, as you can see here, and also it requires a request URI. This is a form of a URL of the server to which we are going to make a request. But this object will be of the type HTTP response message. And since this request or response is in the form of asynchronous, so we have to make it awaitable, and also this has to be encapsulated in the form of a task. So this process will go on in its own thread, and once the response is completed, the thread will finish its work and the data will be shown to the user. Also, I have to use HTTP response message, so I will create a response message object, and I have to get asynchronous response from the server, and I have to provide a URL here. But as you can see that it is throwing me an error. This is because I have to use the notation for it to be encapsulated this whole method inside a certain method which is awaitable, and it can run in its own thread. So in order to make sure it runs in its own thread, I have to create a method which starts with async, and this will be a method such as get request. For time being, I will just pass a URL, so these things or in its own block, and I will shift this to its own body. Now all of the things are properly done, but since we have to make this client await, so this client will still wait for the get request to be completed in its own thread, and when it's completed the response will be stored inside this object. But as we can see that this response is also disposable, so we will use it inside the using block. Now once we get the response, it's time to get the meaningful output from this response. So if we carefully look to inside this response, we can see that we can get the content header, the reason phrase, status code, the version, and is success status code true or false. So these are the helpful properties which we can get from this response object. Since my concern is only with this content, I am interested in getting the content back from the server. So as you can see here, it is of the type HTTP content. So this content should be in the object of HTTP content. And how can you use it? You have to create an HTTP content class object, and this response content will be fetched from this response in the form of this content. So if you carefully look here, you can also get headers, you can also get status code and version depending upon your requirements. Since this HTTP content object is also disposable, so I will just make sure that once it's done with its purpose, it is properly disposed, so our memory is not wasted thoroughly. Alright, so we are good to go here. We have initiated our client, then we have got response, and after that we have got the content from the server. Now it's time to get this content. As you can see that we can copy the data to the server, or we can read from the server in asynchronously. So in order to make the data to be loaded in a string, we have to make it awaitable. And at the end I will just print the data on screen. Okay, now I will just initiate this get request in the single thread here, although I can initiate it using task, but for simplicity I will just initiate it using this single block, because I'm just working here in this very small application. So I will just do get request, and since URL forgot here, I will just copy it here and I will just pass this URL here. So what will happen once this method is run, the complete page of Google will be displayed in form of HTML in console. As you can see here, the end tag is /HTML and starting tag is HTML. So you have got a response from the server in the form of its content, and it's not necessary. Whatever website you use, you will get the content. As you can see, you have got response from Microsoft. Say if you are not interested in the content, just skip it. You just use the headers. So you have to use HTTP content headers. And this headers is disposable. You can get other different parameters from these headers. Just for simplicity, just paste it here, and it will show you some of the information for you. So this was how you can utilize this HTTP client to make a GET request. You can make a POST request. So in order to make a POST request, I will just copy paste this complete method. And I will paste it here. I will just say POST request. Now once we are posting a data to the server, this is in the form of form fields which we fill online, and then we hit on login or we click on sign up. Such forms you will be seeing on daily basis while creating new user online or while creating other different stuff sending to the server. This can be a file, this can be a piece of text, a status. So this post request is also done using this HTTP client, this response method. The difference is only here you will use post async, and with this URL you have to provide the HTTP content, what sort of content you are going to transmit over this post request. So this HTTP content is basically in the form of, if you are transferring a file, so it will be a multi-part content or a multi-form data content. Since we are just sending out a form of a variables as you see on daily basis, such as you have seen here this query. These are the variables which are transmitted to the server. So in order to mimic such process, I will use a website called posttestserver.com. This is a helpful website which will show you which type of data you are posting to your from your application. So just point your clients to this service, and the status will be returned in the form of 200 that it is successfully posted to the server. So I will use this website, and the information is stored on this website, which we can later use on. Okay. So now I have created a new form URL in encoded text. But since this form URL encoded content requires key value pairs, and this must be enumerable, so I will create key value pair, and these will be my, I will call it queries, and I will just create a new list for self. This will be basically key value pair also, and at the end, so my first query to this post dump will be query 1, and I will just send my name as query 1 here. And the second one will be my last name, and I will just pass these queries here. It is used, I will call it queue. So I have created queries, and I have made an HTTP content object. Now it's time to pass it to this queue, and all I have to do here is I will get the response back from the server, and I will say post request, and I will just paste this website here. So we will be getting status message how many variables we have dumped to this server. As you can see, we have successfully dumped 2 post variables, and we can see it here on this website. If we go to this website, you can see that the first variable which was dumped to the server was query1, and its value is Jamal, and the second one is Hussein. Also, if we are interested in all of this information, we can also get it. And the query was in the form of this format, which was sent to the server. So this is how you can make an HTTP GET request and HTTP POST request using .NET framework. Also, you have got the basic idea. For any questions, please leave in comment, and I will answer you in the comment section. Thank you.